Yo, yo, it's JoJo. The sound okay on LSN's end? All right, thank you. A beautiful evening is upon us here in Lynchburg, Virginia. A bit of a stiff breeze and a bit of a stiff matchup. The Generals and the Hornets meeting again just 24 hours after their most recent contest. Hello, friends and fans. Welcome inside the booth. I'm Joe Hutzler with you tonight here on location as these two teams are meeting again just 24 hours after competing against one another last night in Lexington. And we're going to have you meet our Daniel Rowe again, who is meeting us from his home way over in Richmond. D. Rowe, excited to be back. I mean, this has got to be a huge deal for you to just take in these action in a different way.
Happy to be a part of the broadcast, Joe. Thanks for including me. Looking forward to a great game tonight.
Yeah, and in this game, we have two teams that are meeting back-to-back days. Now, lacrosse is a sport where you are used to playing back-to-back days when you get to the tournament, but very rare that you play the same opponent again. Who has the upper hand, if you will, based on yesterday's contest?
Well, Joe, going into this one, I think it's going to favor Lynchburg, but only by a little bit. Both of these teams typically play a lot of close games, a lot of close matchups between one another. And I think Lynchburg is going to have the advantage because they were the ones that end up being on the losing end last night. And because of that, I think they'll come out with a little bit more fire than what they did initially.
A team that is undefeated here at home. They look to keep that record going here in 2021. Well, let's talk about those two coaches that are trying to devise a game plan that might be a little bit different than yesterday. Who knows? We're going to chat first, though, about Mr. Gene McCabe in his 15th season, 167 wins, 3 ODAC titles, including the most recent ODAC championship in men's lacrosse in 2019, and just finished up his 2-year term as the USILA president as well. On the other hand, you've got Coach Kadelka, 7 ODAC championships, 25th season, just 7 wins away from 300 career victories as the head coach of University of Lynchburg, and looking to end a 3-game skid against the Generals tonight on LSN. We'll step aside when we come back. Players to watch, starters, and the opening face-off, Generals and Hornets, right here on the LAC Sports Network.
My name is Jen Hyde. I graduated in 2018 and I got my major in philosophy, political science, and I minored in human services. And career-wise, right now I work at a residential treatment center for juveniles with sexually reactive behaviors. I would say the biggest advantage is definitely that it is a small campus. You know, you get to have that one-on-one with your professors. They're willing to help you out. They're going to get to know you more than just a student that they're teaching. You know, they really invest into your lives. Definitely use every resource that you can kind of get at Lynchburg. There's tons of mentors within the professors, the faculty, the staff here, your peers that are here. You have so many options that you can take. There's so many classes, you know, even if it's not within your major, if there's a class you're interested in, take it. Kind of explore your options because Lynchburg does have such a wide variety of different things that you can do. You know, be involved, become a well-rounded individual because Lynchburg sets up the support to where you can do that here.
At Lynchburg, we don't fear change. We embrace it. In our students, on our campus, in our community, and around the world. We're building on our legacy of always moving forward. It's the same place, with a new name. Welcome to the University of Lynchburg.
Welcome back to Schellenberger Field. Let's talk about our players to watch today, and 2 very deserving gentlemen on this list. And we're starting with number 31, Taylor Witherell. Danny Rowe, 1 game, and he finally gets in to play last night. 3 goals and 2 assists. That has got to be one of the all-time greatest moments in lacrosse history for WNL.
No doubt about it, Taylor Witherell. That last name, a very familiar one. His brother played at WNL just a few years ago and was another one who torched Lynchburg over and over again. So no surprise to see that from that family.
On the other side, we're talking about a graduate student, one of the 5 for Lynchburg that came back to use that extra year of eligibility, number 8, Colin Dean, who had a very good performance yesterday, 20 goals on the season, and he's a consistent player for Lynchburg on the attack.
Exactly, Joe. Very consistent, something you definitely want to see and something that you need from a senior, experienced leader on this team. He's definitely going to have a good performance tonight for Lynchburg to have a good chance.
So each teams have their starters being announced by our public address announcer, Mark Robertson, and we are inching ever closer to the start of this one. We briefly touched on the series history as of recent memory. W&L winning the last 3 contests. They've won 8 of the last 9 as well. Lynchburg's win came back on May 4th in the ODAC semifinals, 11-8 that one. And really, D-Row, when you look at the ODAC standings right now, this is crucial for both of these teams. Hampton-Sydney leads the way in the ODAC standings, 3-0 within the ODAC, 6-1 overall. W&L 3-1, Lynchburg's 2-1. This is not counting as a conference game. However, this is a good barometer in case these two teams would meet up again in the ODAC tournament.
No doubt about it. And Joe, honestly, nobody's even thinking about the fact that technically it's not a conference game. Both of these teams play at a very high level, and they're going to be playing a great game here in this matchup later tonight.
So as we take a look at Lynchburg, they're going to have the likes of Trammell Robinson, Kyle Lewis, Chris Darminio out there. Of course, Quentin Ritchie, who has been a nice surprise coming in from Mary Washington after a pretty good career there for the Eagles. He has been a huge lift for this Lynchburg team in the faceoff dot. D-Row, back when you were on the LHSN airwaves, Lynchburg had some struggles in the faceoff areas at times, so it's good to know you've got a consistent player there.
Yes, exactly. He's been a great performer for Lynchburg. They're going to need him to do well tonight to control possessions. But as we saw, that might not matter. You got to put more goals in the net than the other team. Last night, Lynchburg, on paper, was the better team. But W&L was able to come out with the victory, controlling the pace of the game throughout that one. And faceoffs are obviously a very key part. And Richie's got to be able to possess those balls early for Lynchburg so they can get a good start.
Before we get started, you mentioned the word goals, and we have to talk about the goalie for Washington and Lee. Jack Taylor last night, 19 saves. I mean, you played goalie and your days of playing lacrosse. How big of a deal is that with the goalie brethren around the country?
19 saves is amazing in one game, Joe. To be able to get that many saves in a very competitive, good game is a great thing as a keeper. Most of the time you're getting 19, 20 saves in a game where you're losing by 15 or 20 points. So to make that many saves in a very tight contest against a good program, that's just huge, a career high for him. And he'll be an important factor for W&L tonight if they're going to win.
And the opening faceoff goes to Lynchburg, so their offense will go to work, an offense that was dormant most of the first quarter. Lynchburg gave up a 5-0 lead to start that game. Eventually it was 6-6 at halftime, but the Hornets never led throughout last night's contest in Lexington, and they'll want to change that here on their first possession, perhaps with a goal to start. Colin Dean has it at the moment and works his way down the alley back to Trammell Robinson, 2 of those returnees for Lynchburg. Brett Rogers, and right away, Trammell Robinson gets involved and puts the Hornets on top 1-0 early.
Great score there for Lynchburg, just what they needed. They're going to continue to come out with some fire after that loss last night. The question is, can they sustain it through the game? You see them bouncing the ball around. Good possession for Lynchburg, scoring on the first of the possessions of the game.
Yeah, anytime Robinson gets that close inside, he's looking for the back of the net, and he finds it for the 15th time this season, second on the team in that category. And the Hornets with the early lead, and so far, very similar to how this team responded to a loss to Christopher Newport, a team that they played in back-to-back meetings on the schedule. Now, it was 6 days apart when those two teams got together again, but it was a dominant performance for Lynchburg, 12-5, the final score that night. And here they are again under the lights of Schellenberger Field, once again facing a team wearing blue and white. and looking for a similar result with the second midfield group of Brooks Poley, Dylan Wolf, and Ty Mitchell out there with Rogers, Robinson, and it also looks like Ryan Kenny is playing attack this evening.
If there's any advantage to these COVID precautionary scheduling, Joe, it's the fact that sometimes you get to play those back-to-back games, have that short-term memory, you're very familiar with your opponent, and you're able to capitalize on your mistakes really quickly just a day or so later.
Under 30 seconds to shoot. Poley lets one rip that misses wide. And looks like Robinson was able to beat Finn Thorne to the line. So it's Robinson here. Ty Mitchell out top, looking for some space to shoot, and he goes high over top the crossbar. Mitchell missing that first matchup against CNU and promptly coming back the next week with a goal. Huge component to the depth of this Lynchburg midfield. Now 8 seconds to shoot. They got to hurry. Brooks Poley inside to Robinson. Quick one-timer, but it was swatted away. Good stick work by Michael Horgan. And it will be the Generals picking up that loose ball and keeping it 1-0.
Nice ground ball there for the Generals. Now their first possession here. We'll see how they're able to respond.
Last night, clearing-wise, Washington and Lee was 21 of 25. And they get their first one of the evening. Stuart Greenspan with the ball here. And he'll give it up to Tommy McCowett. And the first midfield group, McCowett, Greenspan. And in possession now, Ben Mulholland. And a ground ball scooped up after the call's turnover. Clayton Jones with it. And Jones takes it all the way himself. Made a mistake early last night, got an earful from Coach Kudelka, and promptly scored a goal a little bit later. Trying to avoid his right ear being busted from the booming voice of Steve Kudelka tonight. As Robinson goes top shelf and makes it count for goal number 2.
Great patience there from the Hornets. Starts with the clear by the midfielder, taking it all the way himself. And Joe, Lynchburg just taking control here early. Something that you definitely want to see if you're a Hornets fan.
Check it out one more time. Robinson with space. And maybe, I know obviously it's very early, but perhaps this back-to-back opportunity helps Lynchburg when it comes to finding the open seams in Jack Wright's play inside the pipes. I know it wasn't really phrased as a question, but that was kind of a question to you as our goalie expert.
Yeah, I think lead me in there, Joe. I think it's definitely just a sign of confidence from Lynchburg more than anything, Joe. Taylor, obviously, as a goalkeeper, one of the things you have to do, not only from possession to possession, but from one game to the next, you got to have a quick memory and just let anything go, whether it's good or bad. Let it go and move on to the next play, the next game, the next possession. And he's got to do that here to bounce back and be solid in the cage there for the Generals.
Well, the offense is going to have to take some of those words of wisdom and use them as well, because 2 possessions, no shots yet, and now a flag is down on the far side of the field. So a delayed penalty here against the Generals, continuing to add to the momentum mountain for Lynchburg. 4 shots for them so far. 2 have gotten past Taylor. And they'll look to find another shot before that whistle blows. And there's Taylor's first save of the night. And now we will get that penalty call from the official. It's going to be a technical foul. We'll see who serves it. It's the offside penalty variety. So 30 seconds, and sitting for the Generals is Kai Nelson. Lynchburg this season, 7 man-up goals, 28% on man-up opportunities. They scored 1 yesterday in that 12-10 loss to Washington and Lee.
limited penalties overall in that game, Joe. Just 5 between the teams yesterday. So not many opportunities, but this is definitely one Lynchburg wants to capitalize on here.
Skip
Already
pass.
having a 2-goal lead.
Skip pass to Rogers, and now it's back to Lewis. Robinson gives to Rogers. And we are even now as that penalty expires, and as it does, Ryan Kenny gets involved in the goal party to make it 3-0.
Joe, on man-up opportunities, you often have just a couple extra seconds beyond that 30 or that 60 seconds that you do have as the defense gets their extra man back to adjust to the matchups. And Lynchburg just finding the open guy and a nice rip it from the side for the Hornets.
Just the second start for Ryan Kenny, but he's got 6 goals now for his season. And the Hornets dominating the opening minutes as the Generals call a timeout. 9:54 to go. Hornets in the lead, 3-0 on LSN. Welcome back to Schellenberger Field. Joe Hutzler and Daniel Rowe with you tonight on LSN. It's shaping up to be a bit of a breezy, chilly fall type of night here in Lynchburg, Virginia, and it's already a better one than it was last night for Lynchburg. On top 3-0 with less than 10 minutes, just a few ticks under 10 minutes remaining in the first quarter. And from where I'm seeing right now, D-Rowe, the Generals, they just don't have the ball long enough to make anything happen.
They don't, and credit to Lynchburg. They're winning faceoffs, first of all, to be able to keep possessions. And then the one possession that the Generals had that they weren't able to keep possession of the ball. They turned it over. Lynchburg winning another faceoff here, and once again, another chance to really capitalize on this lead that they have.
Well, that was one of the shocking numbers that I saw last night. When you look at the score, you think, well, maybe they didn't do well in the faceoffs, didn't have the ball enough, but that's the exact opposite for Lynchburg when it comes to those numbers. 20 of 26 of the faceoffs were won by Quentin Ritchie and company. So it's really interesting. They had the ball as much as they did, and yet they weren't able to score the way the Generals did.
Yeah, I totally agree. And like we said in the pregame, outside of the goals scored, pretty much every other statistic in last night's game, Lynchburg led. So if you weren't looking at the score of the game and just looking at the other numbers, you would have thought Lynchburg would have won, arguably, maybe even by a landslide. But Generals did a good job of capitalizing on the few possessions that they did have. And the few shots that they did have were typically on frame and or in the back of the net.
Jack Taylor with his second save of the quarter. And now the Generals will look to break the ice for themselves and possibly make it a 2-goal game.
That's a feel-good save right there for Taylor. Gets yourself mentally back into the game. You know you can stop a ball after letting a few goals through.
Good opportunity here and wide open, if you will. One-on-one, it's going to be hard to stop that shot, especially when it's coming off the stick of Austin Hudson, the senior from Baltimore, Maryland. Makes it 3-1.
Joe, as good as Lynchburg is offensively, the Generals are just as good. They're very patient, very methodical in what they do. They broke down Lynchburg time and time again in last night's matchup. And Lynchburg, defensively, the communication just wasn't there, especially in that early run that WNL had yesterday. And we saw a piece of it in that last possession. So Lynchburg needs to continue to find some communication defensively, get their matchup straight.
There's still a key piece missing from that starting defensive group. Jack Albright is cleared to play, but he's got to go through a couple practices since recovering from a concussion and will not play today, but is eligible to start playing next week. So that, in terms of having the experience of that senior mindset, playing a factor perhaps on that communication when you have, even though you have Pupshis and Gallagher, you do have the freshman of Merindon out there as well. As the Generals will look to make it 2 in a row and bring this thing back to a closer matchup, one that we saw last night, and maybe the shoe's on the other foot. The Generals with a 5-0 lead to start last night. Lynchburg outscored them after this first quarter 9-7, as that one clangs off the crossbar, so close from getting across the goal line. Heck of a shot from Henry Holliday, and we have a whistle that is going to keep it with Washington and Lee.
Loose ball push there on Lynchburg from the attack there. Not necessarily a bad play per se. You want to try and lift those sticks, let the ball roll over so you can scoop it up.
Holliday gives it back. That's Greenspan. This is Mulholland working against Rodegast. In the right hand, Mulholland forced to give it up to Witherow. Garrett Mize. And this one just thrown away. It pinballs around. Merindon looking to chase it down. And Henry gets there first. Merindon across midfield. Here's the freshman. Will he take the shot? No. Gives to the short stick instead. And the Hornets take advantage. Tic-tac goal. Robinson with a hat trick in the first quarter.
Great transition offense there for the Hornets. Long pole scooping it up, moving across the midfield, giving the ball up just in time. You'll see him with the drive and the dish. One more down to the crease. And then a great finish there.
And a win after that goal from Ritchie. Robinson with 3 goals here. He has 17 on the year now. And just when the Generals felt like they had their wits about them again, Lynchburg takes advantage of the ground ball as Kenny battles here near side. George Ravegno was a part of that group for the Generals, and WNL will keep it. Here's Kai Nelson. And Nelson sends it back, and a nice catch. Going up high for it was Greenspan, a senior from Aldie, Virginia. Well, let's say Aldie. I think it's Aldie. That's where Gracie Withers is from. D-Row knows who that is.
Yes, it is. She photographed my wedding, fellow Hornet.
5:34 to go in the first quarter. All Hornets here so far, but still lots of time, and very similar again to last night. It was 5-1 WNL after the first quarter last night. Lynchburg fought back and made it 6-6 at halftime. So this certainly is not the end-all be-all for this matchup, as Witherell goes low between the wickets of Moore, just creating enough space to let those wrists get hot and send it through the 5-hole.
If anybody knows how to find the net on this field, Joe, it's Witherall. Classic score from him, staying low, moving around. He's got really quick feet and great left-handed shot. Low and away.
And again, it's just his second game of the season, out with an injury up until last night. 3 goals and 2 assists, and now has another one to add to his tally. And a big face-off win for Matt Gallagher. Gallagher dumps it. Here's a shot, and it's wide left.
Good opportunity there for WNL. It's a shame they weren't able to capitalize it. Keeping possession here.
Mize working against Pupchis. And a flag comes out on that defensive play from Pupchis.
Important Lynchburg digs in here. Gets a stop.
The Generals will stop it themselves. And now they will go a man up. 30-second penalty dished out to Lynchburg. The Generals were 0 for 2 last night on man-up opportunities.
1 minute slashing penalty on Lynchburg, number 36, Alex Hutchins.
That's 1 minute, I beg your pardon, 1 minute slash.
Great chance for them to get even closer here, Joe. Only 2 opportunities last night, as you mentioned. Not too many penalties, as we had talked about. But let's see what the offense can draw up here.
So Pupchis will sit for 1 minute as the Generals look to make it a 1-goal game with less than 5 to go in the first quarter. Fake pass, here's a long shot, and Moore ushers it aside. Mulholland with a good opportunity.
60 seconds on the man-up penalty here, Joe. A lot of times teams really move the ball around a lot, try and get the shots that they want.
Big save from Patrick Moore. It was a dangerous pass, but then a turnover, and then Moore with another one, dives for the ball, and it's Lynchburg possession.
Great effort there by Moore, making up for his mistake on the errant pass. 2 good saves and a great hustle to gain possession. Sometimes as a goalie, that's some of the biggest things you can do on a man down is beat the attackman back on the shot to gain possession for your team.
Ball just gets across midfield. Merendon had it knocked away, and now a tussle for it, and eventually scooped up by Kyle Lewis, and the Hornets can kill the penalty and perhaps add a goal of their own before the end of the first quarter. We see that a lot, what happened to Patrick Moore there as the game of lacrosse evolves to those quick outlet passes, somewhat like the sport that you played at Lynchburg, D-Row, and basketball. You want to quickly get ahead, try to get a fast break possession for yourself, and unfortunately didn't work out for Mr. Moore.
Definitely can be a big advantage when you're able to do that. Great legs here from the Generals.
Ground ball scoop up and then inside. Not able to get to a shooting spot though, thanks to the stick work of Tyler Gallagher. Was 27 in blue, Austin Hudson. And the Generals will go back to work on offense, but it is even now. The penalty is up, so Lynchburg does a good job of killing off their first man down of the night. McCowett looking for space up top, hounded by Clayton Jones. They work it back to X. This is Greenspon. Greenspon's man goes down. He comes inside. Quick pass. It finds its way to the top. Here's a long one that misses, and maybe a chance there for Greenspon to shoot that close to the net.
You think that he would have, Joe, but perhaps a little too unselfish on his play there, trying to find his teammate.
Under 2 minutes to play, 25 seconds on the shot clock, and the Generals turn it over once more. That's their 4th turnover of the first quarter as Clayton Jones swims through the defense and eventually gives it up to Ryan Kenny. And a pass intended for Poley coming in off the bench, and it's a turnover for Lynchburg, their 5th of the quarter.
Lynchburg's got to find a way to take care of the ball, Joe. Not good to get turnovers, especially 5 just in 1 quarter. Fortunately, W&L hasn't been able to capitalize on too many of them. But Jones did some great work to be able to get the ball up for his offense on the clear. His teammates weren't able to keep possession for him. That's one of the frustrating things as a defensive midfielder when you do a lot of the hard stuff and the offensive side isn't able to help you out.
Pretty even last night on turnovers. Lynchburg with 15, the Generals with 13. So no major difference there that gave either team the advantage in a 2-goal game that had the Generals victorious for the 3rd straight time against this Hornet squad. Under 1 minute to play. Generals trying to make it a 1-goal game. Nowhere to go for Mize. Witherell. Checked by Gallagher, lost the ball, it's up in the air. Gallagher stays with Witherell, and then the ball is scooped up by Poli, but they're gonna call it back, and it'll be Generals possession. And Coach Kudelka is almost in Washington and Lee's bench. He's so far down the penalty box. Livid after that call. .20 seconds to play. Goal line extended, that's Mize. Looking out front for a passing lane, it's not there. There was one again, but Martin was in the way of it, and just forcing one was 10 in blue. And a sprint here, Darminio gives the ball back to Lynchburg, 11.8 seconds to go.
They need time to get down the field, but they got to move quick.
If the ball is released before the horn sounds, anything that happens after it does count. Here's a chance. No, the pass was off the mark for Robinson, and that will do it for the first 15 minutes. A fury of Lacrosse in the first quarter that has the Hornets on top, 4-2 on LSN. Back with the second quarter next.
Lynchburg really stood out for me just because of the way it treated its students. They really do make an effort here, and I've learned that over my 4 years is that they actually do try to listen to what the student body wants, and they try to act on that. They don't really just give you a piece of paper here to then go off and do your own thing. They actually prepare you to work with different populations, which is what the world is all about. It's just working with people that are different than you. They genuinely care that everyone has the ability to go off into the world and make a difference with whatever they like. For me, that's just being basically in a room with someone helping them achieve their first goal of, I don't know, doing a pull-up. I actually do believe they want you to do the best you can to change someone's life for the better. You can be anyone here, which I think is really cool. But regardless of who you are here, they will make sure you don't fall through the cracks, which is awesome. I have realized that I've never felt lost here. I will not regret ever coming here, that's for sure. So I'm very glad that I came here. Yeah, it's actually pretty awesome.
First quarter in the books here from Schellenberger Field. 4-2 advantage for the home team. And D-Row, before the game, of course, everyone thoughts on what the keys should be for each squad. And based on what you thought, what have you seen in the first quarter?
Well, both teams are playing pretty well. Lynchburg, obviously, with the loss last night, coming out with a little bit more fire, seeing those early goals. They had a good response from the first score that W&L had to bump it up to 4-1. The Generals aren't out of it yet, Joe. A lot of these games between the Hornets and Generals of recent years are only 2-3 goal affairs. So not going to be surprised if we continue to see this one close at the end of it, even though one team might have a lead throughout the game.
Pretty even throughout the stats in that first quarter. Lynchburg edging the Generals in shots, 9-8. 6-4 shots on goal in favor of the Hornets as well, and each goalie has 2 saves apiece. And actually, the Generals have the faceoffs win lead 4-3, now make it 5-3, as that one's chopped away though from behind. That was the stick of Cole Nestor, and the Hornets will take over on offense.
Got to tuck that stick in, Joe. Once you get that faceoff, you know there's going to be a lot of heat, a lot of sticks right around. Control that possession. What a good effort from Lynchburg to knock it out.
Trammell Robinson with 3 of Lynchburg's 4 goals in the first quarter. Ryan Kenny had the other. The Generals have goals from Hudson and Witherell. 2 guys on the low end of the goal spectrum, but certainly one of them is known for how well he can shoot and score. Skip pass finds Riley Mitchell. A little bit of a juke and nowhere to go with it. Brett Rogers, and they're working around the outside. 25 seconds on the shot clock. Robinson in possession at X. Around the crease, Robinson And a slash is going to be called as Robinson dives in the crease. And now 3 flags have gone out in that last 5 seconds of play. We know the first one was a stick that came up high on the head of Robinson. Perhaps a push on the other end? Don't know.
Definitely looks like it from up here in Richmond, Joe.
And 2 Generals are sitting. They already know that they're in trouble. Michael Horgan and Perry Kramer are in the penalty area, as you can see. Yeah, this would be a huge man-up opportunity for the Hornets.
There's a 30-second penalty on Washington and Lee, a pushing penalty, and a 1-minute slashing penalty.
So a 30-second push and a 1-minute slash given to the Generals.
12:40. 13:10 on the push and 12:40 on the 1 minute.
So there'll be 2 men up until 13:10 on the clock. And then, of course, 12:40 on the clock. We'll go back to even strength. Lynchburg is 0 for 1 so far on their man-up team. Although that one was almost 1 for 1, the amount of time that Kenny was able to score when it went back to even strength. Here's Robinson. Now Lewis. Up top, Rogers. Inching their way closer to the goal. A bounce pass connects to Lewis. Here's Robinson near side. Wants to give to Rogers and rips one up top. Just as the first penalty expired, the Hornets make it 5-2.
Rogers, great shot there from up top. For being patient, bumping the ball around. Didn't get the first 2 or 3 looks that they were trying to get out of their set. But the patience, especially on a 4-on-6 opportunity, is very important. Lynchburg doing just what they needed to put another one in the net.
Rogers now with 12 goals to go along with his 12 assists this season. Give the assist that time to Trammell Robinson, his 5th of the year. So a nice 4-point game so far for Trammell Robinson. Not a bad evening from Schellenberger Field. And both penalties were expired on that goal, so we're back to even strength. Less than 13 minutes to go. We just started the second quarter, and it has begun the way that the Lynchburg Hornets hoped it would, just as the start of the game did. And the second group of midfielders out there for Lynchburg. The number 3 team in the country, that certainly will take a hit with a loss last night, but less of a hit if they can win this evening.
As the number 3 team, obviously going to have a target on your back, Joe. Got to bring your best every night, because each team's going to want to get you.
Dylan Wolf brings his best on his first shot of the night. It's a goal for 55 in white, and Lynchburg has their largest lead of the night.
Now it's just confident shooting, just like in basketball, Joe. You see your teammates put a couple through. You know, once you get the ball in your stick and you got a room to rip, there's a good chance of it going in the net.
So Wolf tallies his 9th tuck of the year. And Lynchburg once again in firm control after a solid start to the quarter. Peter Robertson with the ground ball pickup off that face-off after Lynchburg lost the first. They have won the last 2. Good to see number 6 out there, A.J. Neves, who suffered an injury earlier this season, has played the last few games, and he's out there with a third group of midfielders, Jack Spears, Grant Voigt, A.J. Neves. Voigt drives in on Alex Kelly, and that ball picked up after it bounced around a little bit by Lewis. Neves gets it from Spears. 30 seconds to shoot. Gets something on target. Good defense from the Generals. Nothing easy for Spears there. Nice check from Nelson. Under 20 seconds now. Lewis thought he lost it, got it back. Looks inside, pass not there. Under 10 to shoot. Here's Spears, not afraid to shoot it from anywhere, but nowhere to shoot it that time. Neves trying to use the big body to create some space, just throws it at the net, and that's a shot clock violation. Great defense from the Generals.
Fantastic effort there from the boys in blue. Shelling up, not letting anything through. A lot of extra help from teammates. A lot of times what you got to do defensively, Joe, is guard a guy and a half, right? You got to guard yours and half of your brothers. And Generals did a good job there defensively.
Yeah, certainly communication is a cliche term, but man, it's so important, especially in this sport with people running around behind you and next to you. You've got to be able to chat with your fellow defenseman and know where the next guy is. 6-2 contest, about 10 minutes remaining in the quarter. The Generals in desperate need, you feel like, from a momentum standpoint, to score here. Certainly we know 4 goals is nothing in the sport of lacrosse, but 4 goals, down 4 goals at this location, especially this season where Lynchburg is 5-0, is a tough task to complete.
Both teams actually 5-0 at their respective home fields this year.
As Henry Holiday gets that next goal, the sophomore from our nation's capital makes it 6-3 with 9:48 to go.
Good response there from the Generals now. Stopping the bleeding a little bit, keeping yourself involved, keeping yourself in the game. See him fighting through the contact there, and a good finish on the ground. Sometimes it's not about placement, it's just about redirecting it off the turf.
11th goal of the season for Holiday, and a crucial one with plenty of time remaining in the second quarter. As the faceoff gets underway, it's Ritchie winning it cleanly for the home team. Connects with Robertson. Here's that fast break, skip pass. Lewis goes up top and misses just high of the crossbar.
Lynchburg loves to score in transition, especially to answer really quick after another team's goal. It's a way to especially keep momentum on your side and take it right back. Make sure that the Generals and your opponent weren't able to do it.
Lynchburg out shooting the Generals 13-9, so tight there in that category. Still 2 saves apiece from each keeper as that one sails wide from Riley Mitchell. No saves yet in this second quarter, which is, again, so much different than it was last night. We talked about Mr. Taylor's 19 save performance, but even Patrick Moore had 10. So 2 keepers with double-digit saves in a 12-10 game. That was a fun one to be a part of.
We had about 20 shots from either team that were over 20 shots that were on goal. So that gives yourself the opportunity to make a lot of saves.
There's a big one from Taylor.
Great save there. Lynchburg typically a volume shooting team up in the 40s and 50s.
And then another one from Taylor on the turnover by his fellow Generals. You'd expect Trammell Robinson to finish that close in, but Taylor's starting to get his wits about himself, and man, if he makes another one, he's going to be really hard to stop.
No doubt about that. Taylor just playing the brick wall. He's seen a lot of shots at this point, not even halfway through the second quarter, so he's plenty warmed up now.
Four saves on 10 shots on goal for Jack Taylor as the Hornets continue to hold the ball in their offensive half of the field. Lewis, what a juke, great space, shoots and misses. That's 3 that the Hornets have had a good lane to shoot from, but just off target. Back at X, this is Rogers. Rolls it back. Here's Riley Mitchell. Goes up top, and Taylor ready that time. Swats it down. It rolls back inside the crease. Taylor's the only one that should be able to make a play on it, and now he'll scoop it to himself.
Taylor being most of the defense here on that last possession. Seen a lot of shots, making numerous saves. And a great ride there from the Hornets.
One-on-one, mano-a-mano, Mitchell and Sue, and it was Mitchell winning the battle that time, and then a flag's going to come out on that hit that came late from the Generals on the shot attempt from Ryan Kenny, and I think it's going to go against Michael Horgan, who will go back to the penalty box for the second time this half. They'll reset the shot clock, and Lynchburg will go a man up once more. This is their 5th man up of the first half alone. Last night they had 3 total in the game. Lewis. Out here to Rogers, who sends it long and finds the L in the back of the goal. His second of the night. And Lynchburg once again successful with a man up.
In that possession, Joe, the Generals went with a little bit different tactic, locking off one of the Lynchburg players, making it a 5-on-4 play. And a heads-up play there by Lynchburg, using his own man to set the screen to get Rogers open for the score.
Both goals for Rogers have come here in the second quarter. Lynchburg outscoring WNL 3-1 in the second stanza of this wonderful story that started last night at 7 p.m. with the Generals winning Chapter 1, 12-10. And perhaps we have the third chapter in the making come ODAC tournament time. Both of these teams in line to host the tournament, host part of the tournament, I should say, depending on how things shape up with Lynchburg and Hampton-Sydney. That's the final game of the season for the Hornets. You'll catch it right here on LSN. If the Tigers do not lose the rest of the way, Lynchburg able to defeat them, and if Lynchburg doesn't lose any more in the conference, you could have 3 teams with 1 conference loss and each one beating the other. What a pass, going low, and a stop again from Taylor. Up high, down low, doesn't matter. 26 in blue is ready.
Despite being 6'4", Joe, Taylor getting low, getting the stops there. Sometimes as a tall goalie, which I'm familiar with myself, you know you got to get low quick. So just by having that mentality gives you a little bit more of an advantage, because sometimes the offensive players might think, well, he's so tall, I'll just shoot it low.
That time the shot was wide from the stick of Tommy McCowett. Another big moment for the Generals, sensing that they need a goal to keep things close here, down by 4 on the road in a place that has been a terror for the opponents this year. Certainly with the addition of fans again on both sides here on the track where we are, on the other side where most of the parents are, as that one saved by Patrick Moore, his first save since the first quarter, and quickly outlets to Alec Pupshis. Here's Pupshis on the run, and he will slow things down, looking for a friendly with a short stick to get set up. Colin Dean sprinting down the alley, lets it rip, and he misses it just right.
Dean loves to look for the edges of the goal here. Not surprised to see him miss the frame necessarily, as he really chases the pipe.
Here he is again. Slips past his man and sends one to the back of the net. What a move to put his defender miles behind as he gets to the finish line. His 4th goal in 2 days, his first of the night, and Lynchburg has their largest lead.
Dean's got a hot hand coming off of last night's game. No surprises, he's typically an offensive threat for Lynchburg, playing with a lot of confidence right now.
21 goals this season, his second most in a single season after 32 in that 2019 campaign. So on his way, certainly, to eclipsing that mark as Ritchie is triple teamed and still holds on to possession, able to give it up to Darminio, and then Clayton Jones will chase it down. How about the effort from Quentin Ritchie? I mean, you have way more experience with this than I do, especially in lacrosse, but 3 guys around you, sticks hitting your hands, and still able to hold possession. That's impressive.
Well, one of the things they teach you from a young age, Joe, is when you scoop up a ground ball, run out to space, find the green space first before you relax to go and release some of that pressure. He did a perfect job there. Textbook play.
A pinball type of moment as Mitchell lost it a few times, got it back. Alex Kelly wanted it, he couldn't hold on, and in the end, the Hornets have control with 3:15 remaining in the second quarter. It's Dean going across the field and too tall for Robinson. Always a risky move, both out here and indoors. The sport that you played, there's always that, don't throw it across court.
Definitely was a stretch of a pass there. Generals almost turned it over.
Certainly, WNL has not been as crisp as they would like on these clears. And the Lynchburg defense is trying to smother that one away. Darminio knocked it down, and we get a whistle. I'm looking for a signal from the official. I didn't see it. So I'm not exactly sure what the call was there to give it back to Lynchburg. I have to point that question to you as someone who officiated lacrosse. Anything that you saw?
Might have been a loose ball push. It's frequently the go-to call in situations like that where the ball's bouncing around. As an official, it's one thing you're typically looking for as one player tries to gain advantage of the other.
And there is a flag on the field. I did not see that come out. It came kind of away from the ball, but it's right out there on that right side of the goal as we see it on your screen. So Lynchburg will go a man up again, depending on how this chance goes, as Dean gives it up to Lewis. Riley Mitchell to his left side, goes high off the crossbar and away, and the ball is scooped up out of midair by Brett Rogers. So that flag still stays on the turf, and Lynchburg gets 80 seconds again to work with.
Thought they could have got the ball to Mitchell there a little bit earlier. Nevertheless, Mitchell with the quick feet getting by his defender. Shaky move.
Rogers one-on-one back at X. Lowers the shoulder, looking for a shot, skips it instead, and Dean goes low. Got off a defender. Rebound comes to Mitchell. He'll skip one. This one clangs off the post and out of play.
Well, the quick ball movement from multiple angles often can give you a good advantage on your shots as you're forcing the goalie and the defense to rotate quickly. Unable to finish as they hit the pipe a couple times. Nevertheless, in-up opportunity for Hornets once again.
So that flag is going against the entire Generals bench. A conduct foul, which is a 30-second penalty, puts Lynchburg on the man-up unit for the 6th time in this first half.
Already more penalties tonight than last night's game in total.
Dean rips one that goes wide. Lynchburg is 3 of the previous 5 converting-wise. 3 goals on 5 man-ups before this one. And that one's super frustrating when it wasn't something that happened on the field. Out top, Rogers. Sidearm, still connected to Kenny. Back to Rogers. They quickly work it around. Lewis, no-look pass. Here's a shot that is deflected by Taylor. What a stop from 26 in blue on a really tough angle.
Great save. All you need sometimes is just a little nick to knock the ball off course Long pole able to back it up, gain possession for the defense.
Lynchburg takes a timeout with 47 seconds, so we're going to spare you another commercial break because we're about to go into a long one for halftime, and we're going to keep it here and talk about what we've seen so far. Lynchburg out shooting WNL 29-11. They're leading 8-3 right now. So obviously, D-Row, they're happy with the performance so far. But if they hold on to this and they win tonight, especially in convincing fashion, they're going to have to be a little upset even though they win, because they're thinking, where was this last night?
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, you're always going to wonder where that might have been the night before. I think what Lynchburg has done a great job of tonight is responding multiple times to the Generals trying to fight their way back in. Last night, that game was was a game of runs. Multiple runs from either team, first with WNL, Lynchburg, a couple runs there in the middle, and WNL finishing the game with a good run there in the fourth quarter. Tonight, anytime Lynchburg has taken the lead, they've been able to hold that and respond once WNL has scored their goal. The Generals are hoping to get back into this one. A key for them is to be able to make a run themselves.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Hard to consider anything a run for them, as they have not been able to score back-to-back goals to this point. Just 3 total. Meanwhile, Lynchburg has gone on multiple, including 3 to start the game. And then, of course, here in the second quarter, they've had a run of 2, followed by 1 goal from WNL, and then another run of 2. So multiple opportunities in a row that Lynchburg has capitalized on. The Generals, however, have not been able to do that. They haven't been able to get as many shots as they wanted to, but they are only down 5, 47 seconds to go. They will have an opportunity to maybe make it a 4-goal game, and that could certainly change the complexion of this going into halftime, not feeling as out of it on their end. 35 seconds, a quick clear, I beg your pardon. Go ahead, D-Row.
I was just going to say exactly why they called the timeout there. Get your clear set up, get the right personnel on the field, and get the ball down to make sure you can get it set up, try and get a score before half.
And then classic fashion, neither one of these teams, they're like, well, we can't keep these going into halftime, so let's use our timeouts that we have left. The Generals used their final of the half with 27.8. So last time they set up a good clearing attempt that worked out. Now they're going to try to draw something up. The one thing that's different about tonight, though, D-Row, is that no one individually for the Generals has really stood out. But you have to imagine if you're drawing anything up, just like you do on the hardwood, you're looking for your best shooter, and that's number 31.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You're going to look for your best players. But Greenspan and Mulholland, they're also great shooters as well. You can't discount them. Lynchburg has to defensively look at all of these players almost as equals, because any of them can score at a high rate. And so Lynchburg's got to make sure they communicate well. It's something that we mentioned they didn't do well last night and had a few slip-ups earlier in this game. But WNL getting a chance to draw something up, getting a good look. You'll likely see some patience at first and then some shots here towards the end of the clock, so low that Lynchburg won't have the chance to get a fast break on the other end.
Greenspan and Mulholland, the leaders in points, 15 goals and 14 respectively. And last night, Greenspan had 1, Mulholland had 2. And of course, we talked about Witherell had 3. So to D-Row's point, look for 31, 11, and 13. They're all out there now. This is Witherell. Dishes to Mulholland. Back to Witherell. Tries to swim through and does, but still nowhere to go. Now a skip pass across the turf. Excellent defense from Lynchburg. No shooting lanes, and then that one is stick checked away for Gallagher to scoop up, and that is the end of the half. What a great defensive performance to end the second quarter by Lynchburg.
Great stop there by the Hornets, just what you wanted. Generals know they might have had a missed opportunity there, nevertheless a chance to regroup here at halftime.
And with that, we are going to step aside. It is an 8-3 lead for the home team, trying to rebound from last night's disappointment in Lexington. We'll be back with more on the halftime show here on LSN.
Everyone has a story. A triumph, a time they fell short, a gift, a light all their own. Every story has a beginning. For us, our stories began long before we got here, at the moment we discovered we had something to share with the world. But no matter where we've been, our journeys weave together at the University of Lynchburg. Since 1903, we've grown from a handful of students to a diverse, dynamic community of students, professors, staff, and alumni around the world. In a community that supports who we are and who we want to be, we're on a journey to find where our passions lead so we can lead others to find theirs. Together, we have more experience, we have more knowledge than we do alone. Eventually, our stories will lead us to a path all our own, and we will share our passions with the world. No matter the journey we choose, the University of Lynchburg is, and always will be, our home.
Here's to life and here's to Lynchburg, to the years we spent together. I don't know when or how we gathered, but I know I'm home. So here's to love and here's to the heartache, all the laughter, every mistake. I don't know how our lives will be changed, but here I am home. Here I'm home.
The biggest thing that I've taken from Westover is probably my interactions with faculty. I started working with Dr. Fryer. He's always available for help, and he makes sure that I get to do the experiments and not just be there while he does them. I didn't want to limit myself when I came here to just taking the prereqs for med school. I wanted to get a full, well-rounded education, and I definitely found that in the Westover program. It's given me the opportunity to keep playing soccer at a competitive level, but also it's given me the ability to be a student and to pursue other activities such as EMS. "100% do Westover because it's not something they're going to regret, and it's going to be a lot of work, but so is everything else. It's just going to help build their education that they've already had and make them a better person for it."
A lot of people go to the universities to find something to be a part of while getting their education. And when you come here, Lynchburg is that something, it becomes a family. It's what this school's really good at doing.
Well, there's a sight we'll never take for granted again. Fans in the stands enjoying this halftime score of 8-3 in favor of the home team, Lynchburg, on top of Washington and Lee. We'll be back with D-Row and highlights from the first half next on LSN.
Thomas Gibson Hobbs graduated from Virginia Christian College in 1904 as a member of its first graduating class. After earning a law degree from the University of Virginia, he settled in Lynchburg and began a highly successful career as an attorney. In January of 1915, he was invited to attend a meeting of the College Board of Trustees, during which the possibility of closing the college due to financial concerns was to be considered. Mr. Hobbs spoke eloquently of the need to fight for the college's existence, and the board decided to continue operating the institution. He was asked to serve on the board at that meeting and served as a chairman of the Board of Trustees from 1918 until his tragic death in 1942. Mr. Hobbs was a guiding light as the college changed its name to Lynchburg College and moved toward becoming an accredited liberal arts institution. His relationships with the economic power structure of the city played a critical role as the young college struggled financially through the depths of the Great Depression. His belief in Josephus Hopwood's vision of the college never wavered, as reflected in his message to the student body in the late 1930s. Lynchburg College, with continued wise leadership, is just on the threshold of development into an institution which will, in still larger measure, build sound leadership in church and school and state, a leadership which will look for its reward in the consciousness of service rendered and a task well done. Upon his death in 1942, the Board of Trustees unanimously adopted a resolution of appreciation which named Mr. Hobbs as, quote, the college's greatest leader, unquote.
And we're back under the lights of Schellenberger Field. It is halftime with the Hornets leading the Generals 8-3. Hello, friends and fans. Welcome back inside the booth. I'm Joe Hutzler, joined by Daniel Rowe for this special broadcast. One, of course, I hope we can continue to do and bringing you in virtually from Richmond, Virginia. So before we get into the first half analysis, D-Rowe, what's it been like getting back on the wagon here and helping us out?
It's been great, Joe. Pleasure being here. Obviously got a little rust that I've had to shake off here in the first half, but always a pleasure cheering on Lynchburg and given what analysis I do have. I don't know if it's good or not. I'll leave that for you guys to decide, but appreciate you having me.
Well, I'll tell you this. Don't leave it for me to decide, because it's just a nice thing to have someone else here to talk about the games and see things from a different perspective. So I've enjoyed that a lot here through the first half. And if you're a Lynchburg fan, you got to enjoy this first half much more than you did last night. Things just seem to click from the very get-go of this one. What say you on what you saw in the first 30 minutes?
Yeah, well, the Hornets had a lot of good passing, moving the ball around. They were very patient offensively, being led by both Dean and Robinson. Robinson, 3 goals on 3 shots, so very efficient for him for the Hornets. He had an assist to go with that. Dean had 2 assists as well. And for the Generals, they just haven't had quite the firepower that they did yesterday. Doesn't mean we're not going to see that here in the second half, so don't discount them just yet. But Lynchburg taking firm control, obviously a response from the loss from last night. The question is, can they sustain it as they go into the second half.
Well, we look forward to seeing what this second half has to offer. I think that's a great point that you make about this. Some people would think, well, let me just go find another game on LSN, which you can do at the FTF Next app. But it is certainly not over, and we know this is a very educated crowd that's watching us here tonight. They know it's not over either, and that's the beauty of lacrosse, is how quickly you can go on runs, maybe a Fogo type of goal that could spring things for the Generals. Who knows? We don't know. You don't know. The only thing you can do is watch and find out with us. And
These
with
first
that,
5 minutes, Joe, are going to be crucial for the Generals, and also for the Hornets too. You know, who's going to set the tone going into the second half? It's usually a very important time. Lynchburg getting the first possession here, so we'll see what the Generals can do defensively. But they're going to need to find a way to get some stops and find the back of the net on the offensive end. If they keep letting Lynchburg score, typically in a game against Lynchburg, if you allow them to score 10 or more goals, it's going to be hard for you to win. Lynchburg just typically very good offensively and scoring in bunches. So a low-scoring game will favor you as an opponent to Lynchburg.
yeah, to your point, last night was the first time this season 10 goals were scored and Lynchburg did not win. That was usually the key to success for them. Swim move there from Riley Mitchell. And a quick look, if we can, at the first half stats, or I can look at them and tell you about them. 30-12 shots advantage for Lynchburg. 14 shots on goal to just 6 from the Generals. That number has to increase very quickly. 5 saves from Taylor and 3 saves from Patrick Moore. So neither keeper has had the numbers they had last night, whether that be because their opponents haven't put ball on target as much as we say that, and Taylor makes another stop, or it's just the fact that they haven't been on their game. Whichever the case may be, it's a good start for the Generals on defense to get a stop.
Definitely gives you some confidence getting that stop here, and a nice clear by the Generals.
That stat favored the Generals overall. 8 of 11 on clears. Lynchburg was 6 for 6, as the one more pass inside was a dangerous one. Trying to chase that down is Austin Hudson back near midfield, and the Generals will retain possession. We've seen that a couple times tonight, at least from this angle. It feels like a shot could be taken, but instead there's one extra pass that ends up being a bit gnarly in the wrong way for WNL.
Lynchburg's been great with their sticks defensively, getting the sticks up, checking passes as they come across. And a nice play there by Hudson at midfield. A lot of times you don't catch that as a fan, but that little play where he was just able to scoop it up and pass it to his teammate there on the ground to let your teammate scoop the ground ball up in a positive direction, going back towards your goal instead of away from your goal. Good job gaining possession back for the Generals.
What a chance. There's a flag here, but my goodness, no goal came of that. But how about the pass from Witherell and then to follow it up? Austin Hudson doing his best Cirque du Soleil act to get that shot away.
Crafty pass, almost a good finish there. Lynchburg being a little too aggressive with the defensive stick there.
30-second holding
And the
penalty
Generals
on Lynchburg.
have a good opportunity here
Releases at 11:50
to start off the half offensively.
30-second penalty to the Hornets, just the second man-up chance for the Generals. They convert 33% of the time coming into this matchup tonight, 7 of 21 before this evening started. And a huge moment to cut the lead in half early in the third. Skip pass that does connect, and there's a shot, got deflected. I don't think it made it to Moore. Either way, it was sent away from the goal. And now a couple pitchforks get in there trying to scoop up some hay at the end of the day, and it will be the Generals using that trident to their advantage.
Generals coming in with numbers on that ground ball. Very important, especially when you have the extra man to use it.
Hudson Picorni gives it up as he goes to the ground, and that one clangs off the bar. Rebound comes to Tyler Gallagher, and the long pole in his graduate year gallops across midfield, looking to give it up if he can, and he will.
A lot of shots off the pipe tonight, Joe.
Oh yeah, the goalie's best friends making an appearance for both teams at some times. And Lynchburg's offense goes back to work. But once again, the Generals getting an opportunity to create that game plan of chipping away, but no goals coming from a long offensive possession that included a man-up opportunity. And now it's Lynchburg looking to extend and give themselves even more insurance. Ty Mitchell splits the defenders, lost it, and gets it back. 20 seconds on the shot clock. Under 10 seconds, Robinson scooped it back up after he lost it, flies his way through the middle. That ball never got its way to Taylor, and then once it came close, he deflected it out, so that's a new shot clock for Lynchburg. They had 2 seconds on it. Now it's refreshed.
Yep, that shot was on frame there, goalie able to get a piece of it. Resetting it for Lynchburg, so they'll hold, take their time here. About 5 minutes into the second half here, Joe.
Well, you said it.
I'm liking what I'm seeing from WNL. They're definitely here. You know, they're not out of the game just yet. The question is, who's going to strike first now?
It's going to be Lynchburg's Ty Mitchell. Mitchell the elder scores with 9:37 remaining in the third, and that is a crucial moment for this Generals comeback attempt.
Great shot and finish down low for the Hornets, as they're the first to score here in the second half. It's really important for them to keep that momentum up, try and keep things out of reach for the visitors.
The assist goes to Kyle Lewis as Ty Mitchell picks up his 5th goal of the season and the first of the third. As once again we see a Lynchburg team motivated by revenge against an opponent that they fell to in the previous matchup this season. Coincidentally, they were both wearing the same color on this turf. Riley Mitchell gives it up.
8 of the 9 goals, Joe, for the Hornets have been assisted. That just goes to show you how well the Hornets are using their teammates, bouncing the ball around, finding the open guy.
Big hit at midfield, a clean one from Merendon. And then another big hit along that Generals bench. That was Tyler Gallagher laying the hammer on Alex Kelly. And that's not going to do anything well for the confidence of this Generals team.
No doubt, and Generals actually kind of getting lucky, in my opinion, might have gotten away with what could have been a slash there, possibly out of frustration there on the sidelines. Fortunate they didn't throw the cheese on that one.
Throw the cheese? Where did that come from? That's nice. I like that. Is it string cheese because it's like flappy? It's not like a big thing of cheese?
It could be, Joe. That's up to you.
Maybe it's American cheese, very thin and wavy. We'll go with that.
It's an American game, that's for sure.
That's for sure, yes, no question about it. Colin Dean has 1 goal tonight. His pass got deflected. They work their way around near side post, and Taylor's there again. 8 saves for Taylor.
Taylor continuing to be an anchor back there for the Generals.
And he only needs 11 more to match his total from last night. It's still a number that jumps out to me. 19 saves last night. Simply incredible. Couple whistles here, and it'll be Lynchburg starting things in front of that Generals bench, similar to like a free kick in soccer. And the pass from Rogers, too tall for Gallagher, which is hard to do. And it's going to be scooped up by the Generals in transition. That is Kai Nelson with the ground ball. Then Gallagher makes up for his mistake, chops it away. Scooped up by Dean. Now passes ahead to Darminio. Chris Darminio, bang!
Excellent transition play from the Hornets, swarming around defensively as the ball crosses the field. A good little double team, and then moving the ball with the legs all the way down the field. Big shot for the long ball.
D-Row, I know it's hard for you to be in your home and not bring, maybe the same energy, but come on, man. That was a long pole in transition. You got to give me some more than that.
Heck of a shot, Joe.
Yes, it was. Darminio. And in this one, first one tonight, of course, second goal of the season for the sophomore. And Lynchburg in firm control now, opening up the third quarter with 2 consecutive goals, then winning the face-off after that. And now it's a matter of damage control for the Generals. They need to get a stop here on defense. Last time the third group of midfielders was out there, WNL forced a shot clock violation. That certainly wouldn't be a bad thing. Ryan Kenny. And they'll work it around now to Jack Spears. .20 seconds to shoot. Neves out top. Dishes to Voigt. Fakes the shot and gets manhandled out front. Loose ball picked up by Neves. Under 10 seconds now on the shot clock. Lewis spins to some space and connects. Low to mid. Hip on Taylor, who just looks dumbfounded as to how that ball got through. Just seconds remaining on the shot clock.
Little worm burner there, right along the turf. Sneaks in the net past the keeper. And Lynchburg just rolling right now.
Talk about a phone booth move, being able to spin in that area and let it rip. Kyle Lewis, team leader in points, adds another. Has an assist tonight, now has a goal. 16 goals for him this season. And D-Row, we talked about it at the start of this broadcast about this being 2 ODAC teams and technically this being a non-conference matchup because of the travel restrictions and having to play people close to you. But man, this is a game that feels like a normal ODAC contest and one that Lynchburg is not going to let up. They might have sympathy for other opponents, but you're not going to get that result here tonight.
No doubt about it. Lynchburg falling to the Generals in the last of their few matchups, trying to get back on the winning side of things between these two squads. They're well on the way right now.
Yeah, they have lost 8 of the last 9 to WNL, including the last 3 straight after last night's 12-10 defeat. And Dylan Wolf's second shot is stopped by Taylor. Lynchburg's last win came in the ODAC semifinals in 2018. And it came at Lexington, the Generals were hosting the tournament that year, as Poley goes low and a big foot stop from Taylor.
Taylor keeping his team alive. It's a shame his teammates couldn't come up with the ground ball to get possession back. He's playing well there back in the cage despite letting in 11. Don't let that fool you. He's played very well.
Dylan Wolf down the alley, didn't like his shot chances, so they'll reset around the perimeter here. Feels very much like possibly a baseball game where the pitcher is dealing, but the offense isn't getting it done. Couple hits here and there, making it look worse than it really is for a guy who's putting in yeoman's-like work. 10 saves tonight for Mr. Taylor after 19 last night. Make that 11. And then a turnover, that outlet pass never able to be handled by Harris Hubbard. And here's Lynchburg in transition time. Mitchell goes low and right as Taylor is there again. Right as rain. The Generals are in desperate need of a goal. They have not scored since 9:48 remaining in the second quarter. High pass brought down by McCowett. McCowett works against Robertson. Peter Robertson makes it tough. Thrown back and bouncing away from Holland. But no one around except for Henry Holliday to scoop it up. Holliday has one of the 3 goals for the Generals and goes for the bouncer there that lands over top of its target. Reminds me of some shots I took on Saturday nights in college. I always blame the table, so he can blame the turf. .220 remaining in the third quarter. The Hornets large and in charge as that one finds its way past Moore. Austin Hudson, the senior from Baltimore, continuing to fight as the Generals try to win this last 2 minutes of play in the third. Hudson's second of the night. He scored the first one for the Generals. So now with 7 tallies in the goal department this season, as that one chests off of 42 in blue. Hubbard lost it, got it back, even with great pressure coming from Robinson. And here we go. This is exactly what the Generals needed. They got to win these last 2 minutes, which means they have to have possession. Gallagher trying to dispossess Garrett Mize. Mize holds on, and did he get it across? No. Patrick Moore, who has not been tested as much as he was last evening, does a great job of stopping it and then stamping it down to the turf so that it could not be played again.
Big play from Moore there in the cage. Generals needed that offensive possession to end in a goal for them. This deficit starts to feel even bigger as time continues to wind down.
This field has been very good to the Hornets this season. 5 games, 5 wins as that shot sails left from Mitchell. But they only have 3 home games remaining. They'll be back here on Wednesday against Ferrum at 7 o'clock here on LSN, and then a long wait before April 25th when they host Colorado College at 7 o'clock, as that one again from Mitchell is wide. And then the season finale against Hampton-Sydney senior night for Lynchburg at 7 p.m. here on LSN May 1st. And one important note about that Colorado College matchup, if Lynchburg is able to defeat their remaining opponents between now and then, which include Randolph-Macon, Shenandoah, Bridgewater, Roanoke, and Ferrum, Coach Kudelka may get his 300th win against the program where he earned his 200th win. Back in 2014, they took care of Colorado College, barely a 1-goal win, but that was win 200. And as it stands, they could be celebrating his 300th against the same program in just a few weeks' time.
No surprise to see him getting up to that mark, Joe. A terrific tenured coach here in Lynchburg.
Pass intercepted by Brett Rogers, and that is how we end the third quarter of play. Lynchburg scores 3, W&L just 1. It's 11-4 with 15 minutes to go on the LAC Sports Network.
I was looking for a school that could provide me with the athletics, academics to pursue my career, a wind symphony to pursue my passion for music, and really have a nice general atmosphere. The professors here are really unique, their background and their passion for teaching. It's really a place where you can explore. Lynchburg gives you the opportunity to fail, but also get back up in that period of time and learn from your mistakes. I can make these mistakes within the school environment, but also with the support of other friends, and be ready for the real world when you graduate.
15 minutes on the clock here at University of Lynchburg. The Hornets leading the Generals with 3 quarters gone by, 11-4. And certainly feeling much better than they were this time an evening ago. But there will be a lot of questions as that flag comes out to start the fourth quarter. There'll be a lot of questions, D-Row, about how can you have such a opposite result from one night to the next. And if someone asks me that, my answer is going to be, I don't know. What would yours be?
Well, first of all, you want to point back to the past, right? This is not the first time Lynchburg has done this. Lost a close one to CNU, come back at home and play a much better game with a similar type of lead against a team that they had just lost to. Oftentimes you're able to capitalize on opportunities that you may have missed. Lynchburg's done a great job of getting a lot of their shots on target. Defensively, they've done well. Haven't had as many miscommunication issues as they did yesterday. I think that's been a great piece and a great reason for their success here today. The Generals, on the other hand, just haven't quite have had enough offensive possessions, I think, to get what they want.
And they haven't had enough of that. Their 4th man-up opportunity of the night, and they finally score. And you see the man who scored that goal, Henry Holliday, his 2nd tuck of the evening. And it comes at a very important time for this W&L team.
Good skip pass from the bottom up, on target on the pass and on target on the shot. And if you're Coach Kudelki in Lynchburg, nothing more frustrating as a coaching staff than giving up a penalty early and allowing the Generals to score right away.
So a 6-goal game now and plenty of time to complete a comeback as the Generals will win possession again on that whistle. And now now Lynchburg's defense is going to have to step it up, and you can't have a situation. I don't think that Lynchburg is one of those teams, but you certainly can't get to a point where it's like, all right, 15 minutes, we're up by 7, we got this, because the Generals, as you pointed out to start the second half, they have the offensive weapons to make this a tie game if Lynchburg keeps giving them opportunities.
They definitely know how to score. The question is, can they capitalize on their opportunities that they have? Can't afford to have turnovers like that, just dropping the ball. In Lynchburg, you'll probably see maybe take a quick chance on some of these fast breaks.
There is a quick one.
They'll pull it out and slow it up. Sometimes you got to take advantage of the opportunities. You don't want to hit the brakes too much when you're at a point like this. There's still a lot of time left here in this fourth quarter. And you don't want to change too much. You don't want to play not to lose. You want to continue to play strong and do what's kept you in the lead so far in this game.
That was save number 15 for Jack Taylor. On his way to an incredible 35 saves through 2 nights. If things continue to roll this way, actually already pretty close, 34. As the Generals look to respond again, they have not scored back-to-back goals at all tonight. Every goal that they have tallied has featured a Lynchburg goal in between or the end of a quarter, as they did score to end the third, and then they scored the first to start the fourth, and we've got a General down behind the play. Garrett Mize is in considerable pain as this play continues with Josiah Martin, and a save from Taylor again. Rebound comes out, and now they'll stop play. Garrett Mize is hurt. He is back behind the play and not doing well after taking a hard check, and right away you could tell he was upset with what took place. I think the back of his head even took a hard hit off the turf. We'll see if we have anything to show you from that.
Definitely doesn't look comfortable there on the ground, that's for sure.
No,
he'll be all right.
Well, we are going to step aside, see if we've got a replay to show you. If not, either way, we want to come back and see Garrett Mize get up and walk off under his own power. And actually, we're going to go to break and maybe show you it here. You're looking for 10 in blue. He went down and kind of took, definitely the back of his head hit the turf, but didn't look like it was that hard. Either way, he is being tended to by the WNL training staff, and we'll step aside. Lynchburg leads 11-5, 12:19 to go in the fourth.
At Lynchburg, we don't fear change. We embrace it. In our students, on our campus, in our community, and around the world. We're building on our legacy of always moving forward. It's the same place with a new name. Welcome to the University of Lynchburg.
That is good news. Garrett Mize able to walk off the field. He's got a little bit of help from the training staff, but more importantly, he's able to put weight on both legs. And that will probably be the end of his night. We will update you as we can. 12:19 remaining in the fourth quarter. An 11-5 lead for the Hornets. The Generals have scored the last 2 goals. And looking for another here as they attempt to complete the comeback. Darminio with the check. Loose ball scooped up, shot not able to get through. Good stick work from Lynchburg. That was Tommy McCowett who was denied a chance. And then it's Cole Nestor who sprints across midfield. And now we'll let Lynchburg take control on offense.
For the Generals offensively, just uncharacteristically forcing the issue there. Definitely not something you want to see if you're a Generals fan.
Ty Mitchell sends one high. Lynchburg out shooting WNL 48-22. They outshot the Generals 52-32 last night in that 12-10 losing effort. Tonight, much more efficient on their chances as they look for another one. Lewis thought about the jump shot instead. Gives it up, still time on the shot clock, a little less than 30. Mitchell not able to stay with it as it bounced off his leg and away, and now it's scooped up by Lewis far away from the goal. 15 seconds to shoot. Dylan Wolf has a goal tonight, and he just sends that one wide, and that will be 3 seconds on the clock. So Lynchburg may try to get one here or just toss it. Actually a pretty smart move from Trammell Robinson, and he's trying to give possession to Hubbard and maybe have Hubbard lose it and give Lynchburg a new shot clock. I have not.
Nice crafty effort.
Yeah, I haven't seen that yet.
Hadn't seen that before either. Worth a shot.
It's kind of like the old inbound play where you throw it off someone's back and then take it yourself. Ten minutes remaining in regulation. And yet again, the Generals not able to stay efficient on the offensive end. They're being swallowed up by this Lynchburg defense, who are making it very hard to get any open shots.
Lynchburg's been very active defensively. They've played pretty well here tonight, especially in comparison to last night. Just 5 goals given up today.
And there's another turnover for the Generals. That's their 19th of the night. And each one more costly than the last when you're down by this much.
Hornets playing with the right aggressiveness defensively, getting up, challenging the player with possession of the ball, making it difficult, staying on his hands. Sometimes that's all you need to do as a defender, is just make your presence be known and let the offense make the mistakes. You don't necessarily have to cause the turnover, but let the turnover happen just by your presence.
First group of midfielders out there for Lynchburg. This is Riley Mitchell, the sophomore, connecting low with Rogers, gets around his man. Now goes one-on-one. To his left. Spoke with him on his way into the locker room this afternoon and told him about the men's soccer game against Washington and Lee just a couple hours ago, where Lynchburg gave up a 3-0 start and came back and scored 2 as Taylor makes another stop. That's 17 saves now for Jack Taylor. But Rogers right away said, well, sounds like us last night. If we didn't give up that 5-0 start, probably would have been a different result. Tonight it was Lynchburg starting with 3 straight unanswered and being the catalyst for them to get up to this large lead, but it's starting to dwindle a little bit here late. Tommy McCowett, the junior from New Vernon, New Jersey, scores for the first time tonight and makes it a 5-goal game. Just 8 minutes to go. Still plenty of time, D-Row.
Definitely giving them a little bit of life. What's going to be crucial for the Generals moving forward are these face-offs. Are they able to get possessions in multiple instances back to back to give them a chance offensively to put the ball in the cage? Now 3 unanswered for WNL.
12-8 face-offs advantage for Lynchburg this evening. This one is going to be tight, but there's going to be a push there. That is the call against Ned Mize. And so Lynchburg will gain possession thanks to that mistake by the Generals.
Hornets might have been a bit fortunate on that official's call. I don't know that I would have called it. I think it was just a good opportunity with both players going in and one of them being off balance.
We've certainly seen a lot more not called in terms of pushes, so I got to agree with you there. I don't think Wolf was ready for that pass, and it becomes a turnover for Lynchburg. That's turnover number 11. And now the Generals want to quickly move into a fast break scenario. Maybe they can score. Once again, they've had 3 unanswered so far.
One thing to help you out, and when you're trying to make a comeback, especially against a team that's played well defensively during the game, as Lynchburg has, you got to try and score in some extra opportunities where you get fast breaks like that, unsettled situations coming down the field. Lynchburg turning them back, though, and setting up.
Yeah, we haven't seen the Generals do that much tonight. They've settled for more of the slower approach, trying to set stuff up. As they do here, here comes a shot, and Moore makes the stop. That's his 6th of the night. Again, hasn't been tested as much as his counterpart, but he's made some big ones here in the second half.
Moore with more saves, looking good in the cage there. Not surprised to see W&L try and slow things up and be a little bit more methodical on their possessions. That's very normal for their program on the offensive end, but the downside of that is when you got a big deficit, that makes it hard to come back.
Mitchell lost that, but Coach Kudelka with the fortuitous timing of a timeout. So even though Mitchell lost it, the timeout was made before, so the Hornets will keep possession as we step aside. 5:57 remaining in the 4th. Lynchburg still leads 11-6.
Lynchburg really stood out for me just because of the way it treated its students. They really do make an effort here, and I've learned that over my 4 years is that they actually do try to listen to what the student body wants, and they try to act on that. They don't really just give you a piece of paper here to then go off and do your own thing. They actually prepare you to like work with different populations, which is what the world is all about. It's just working with people that are different than you. They genuinely care that everyone has the ability to go off into the world and make a difference with whatever they like. For me, that's just being basically in a room with someone helping them achieve their first goal of, I don't know, doing a pull-up. I actually do believe they want you to do the best you can to change someone's life for the better. You can be anyone here, which I think is really cool. But regardless of who you are here, they will make sure you don't fall through the cracks, which is awesome. I have realized that I've never felt lost here. I will not regret ever coming here, that's for sure. So I'm very glad that I came here. Yeah, it's actually pretty awesome.
5:57 remaining here in the 4th quarter. The Hornets on top of the Generals 11-6. And as we know by now, this game not counting as a conference tilt. Last night's did. The Generals with a 12-10 win. But we do want to look at the other ODAC men's lacrosse scores. Unfortunately for Bridgewater and Randolph, their game was canceled today. Meanwhile, 4th quarter, Ferrum trailing Hampton-Sydney 15-4, so the Tigers looking to remain unbeaten in conference play. Randolph-Macon, a school that D-Row has an affiliation with as far as men's lacrosse goes, wins over Shenandoah 14-13. Roanoke and Virginia Wesleyan was also canceled today, and here we have an 11-6 game between the Generals and the Hornets. Not counting towards the ODAC, but certainly counting towards progress, and Lynchburg has to like the progress they've made since last night.
No doubt about it, definitely a feel-good game for the Hornets to get themselves back up and running again. They dropped 2 of the last 3 coming into this one, Joe, and you definitely want to be feeling good as you begin to approach the latter half of the season with more important games on the line, entering deeper into conference play and leading into the postseason.
3 seconds to shoot. Lewis just sends one, and that one never got through to Taylor, so it's a shot clock violation. The second one charged to Lynchburg tonight.
Not necessarily a bad situation there for the Hornets, because what you get is now a settled transition as opposed to turning the ball over in the open field. You get a dead ball situation to get your defense back and set up so you don't give up a fast break on the other end.
Not to mention you ended up taking a minute 20 seconds off the clock away from the Generals to score as they try to come back. So yeah, it doesn't look great in the end, but there's some big picture plays, big picture things about it that are positives, as Taylor made that stop and then kept it from going across. Man, this guy is so impressive, and he's going to be the reason the Generals are a force to be reckoned with down the line. They're going to have to do better at scoring goals, but it's going to be tough for other teams to score against them.
Taylor, the big fella, getting it done in the cage tonight. Unfortunately, his offense hasn't been much help, but he's played really well back between the six.
That's back-to-back evenings with 19 saves for Jack Taylor, and still some time to add to that. His offense, though, they don't have much time to add to their total. Down by 5, and that shot is wide from Henry Holiday. Holiday has 2 goals this evening for WNL. There's a caused turnover. And once again, this Generals offense just sputtering tonight. They have not been able to put enough fuel in the gas tank to get down the road without stopping a few more times for some beverages and snacks. Meanwhile, Lynchburg was well prepared, going to Costco first and hitting the road for a 3-hour trip and making it look good, 11-6. And Trammell Robinson collects the Texas hat trick. 4 tucks for number 10 tonight, and that will put away WNL's chances with 3:22 to go.
Robinson, a little icing on the cake on his performance tonight. Hornets feeling good. Good finish there.
Just an absolute rip from Robinson. And just as they did to Christopher Newport, it was a 1-goal loss followed by a 12-5 victory. Last night, a 12-10 loss. And now a 12-6 lead. Still some time to change that score. But you have to like the effort from Lynchburg in rebounding. The only issue you got to be thinking about for Lynchburg is when you get to tournament time, you don't have those second chance opportunities. So if they have to travel, they're going to have to take their first step on the road is going to have to be a lot better than it has been in the last 2 road games.
Yeah, and you'll definitely see a lot of those teams that they'll play potentially look at slowing the game down. Again, high-scoring, high-paced games tend to favor the Hornets. So anytime you play a team that is being a little bit slower, that can be the kryptonite for the red and white.
Once again, the Hornets out shooting the Generals by a large margin, 53-25, 30 shots on goal for Lynchburg. 19 saves from Mr. Taylor. And another one for his best friend as that one clangs off the pipe with 2:05 to go. Lynchburg also winning the face-offs battle and the ground balls battle, 43-27 in ground balls and 15-15 on clears. So a pretty surgical night for this Lynchburg team all the way around.
No doubt about it. They looked really good offensively all throughout the game tonight, Joe. With that shot going off the pipe, it reset the shot clock, so able to kill even more time with his possession as they're just bouncing around the outside. Not much WNL can do at this point.
So the Hornets on their way to going 1-1 this week. They were number 3 in the national poll before their loss last night, but the win tonight, we'll see how that affects things in the USILA coaches poll. But right now it's more about conference. It's more about getting yourself in a good seed for the tournament. The big game left on the schedule as Dylan Wolf adds another to his night, his second, to make it 13-6. The big games on the schedule, of course, you got to always look at Roanoke. Again, you talked about it, D-Row, when you're ranked in the country, every team's going to bring their best, and Roanoke always brings their best against Lynchburg, especially when it's at Kerr Stadium. But if they can make it to that final game of the season against Hampton-Sydney, and both teams are in the same positions they are now, Lynchburg with a win that day could make things really interesting when it comes to tiebreakers for the 1 seed heading into the tournament. So that's where the focus is now, regardless of what happens with the national poll. It's nice to be ranked nationally, but with it being a situation where only the conference winners are going to get into the tournament this year, that's where your focus has to be.
That it does. Lynchburg being fortunate to have some of those tougher games this year on their schedule against ODAC opponents at home. Feels just a little bit more comfortable when you have those. Especially now the fans are able to be involved with a little bit of social distancing, of course.
A little bit, as you can see, very little bit. Of course, now faculty and staff, even with some students, as that ball was given away, there was a flag before that pass was made. Will this goal count, D-Row? I guess if it was against Lynchburg, then it will, but it seemed like the flag was going to go against the Generals. Yeah, and they're waving it off.
They're waving it off, yeah.
So that goal will not count. Just to add to the story tonight for Washington and Lee, even when they get a wide open net, their goal doesn't count. Tough one tonight for Coach McCabe and company.
The goal does not count.
Definitely a frustrating game, especially when you know that Lynchburg is a beatable team because he just did it the night before. Not the performance he was hoping for. Nevertheless, it was a non-conference game, so it doesn't necessarily affect their ODAC seeding all very much. It'll continue to be a great finish here as we're only just starting April, getting into some of these big conference games.
The Hive has spoken, and Lynchburg answers a defeat last night with a big win on Schellenberger Field. They remain undefeated at home, 13-6, our final score here on LSN. A big response from Lynchburg as they are now 7-2 overall. The Generals will drop to a record of 4-3. But as you mentioned, D-Row, it does not affect the ODAC standings, so that still will remain very tight up top with Lynchburg, Washington and Lee, and Hampton-Sydney. Well, before we go, let's bring you back on, man. This has been a fantastic evening to have you on the broadcast. I hope we can do it again, and really just your overall thoughts on taking in a full game of Lynchburg lacrosse. How good do you think this team can really be?
Well, Joe, this team definitely has the pieces to make a deep run, not only in the ODAC tournament, potentially ODAC championship, but they've proven that they can play great non-conference opponents as well. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them make a great run later on in the NCAA tournament. It's just a matter of how long can they keep this thing going. They've done a good job tonight, getting themselves back in the saddle with a win. Hopefully they'll be able to continue it. I know Coach Kudelka is going to be pleased going back watching the film on this one. A few things to pick up defensively on some of those communication things as they're working out their rotation, but offensively you definitely have to be pleased.
Well, we know this Lynchburg team is pretty good in the classroom, and they proved it tonight. They are quick learners as they respond to that defeat with a big win this evening. And we respond with some highlights of this one as we are stepping aside for this broadcast tonight. It has been a fun day. It's been a great time having you back on the broadcast, Daniel Rowe. Thank you so much for your time. And, of course, thank you to you for tuning in to this production. We are back on the airwaves Wednesday night, 7 o'clock, when the Ferrum Panthers come into town to take on this Lynchburg lacrosse team. For the entire LAC Sports Network group, I'm Joe Hutzler, reminding you it's a great day to be a Hornet, and we are one nation.